I came home from work and found a sheriff standing on my porch, new deadbolts shining on my front door, and a bright orange eviction notice taped right over the welcome sign my son painted in second grade. And the worst part wasn't the paper or the locks. It was the fact that through the glass sidelight I could see my mother in my living room holding a mug like she owned the place. And when our eyes met, she didn't look surprised. She didn't look guilty, she looked annoyed, like I was a telemarketer interrupting her show. "Ma'am," the sheriff said before I could even get a word out, "are you Danielle Price?" I nodded, still staring at my mom behind him, and he lifted a clipboard and said, "I'm here to supervise a civil standby. The occupant has a court-issued temporary order of protection, and there's an eviction proceeding in progress. You can't enter the residence." My mouth opened, but nothing came out at first, because how do you respond when a stranger tells you that you can't enter the house you pay for, the house your name is on, the house you have lived in for 8 years, while your own mother is literally visible inside, alive and well, holding your favorite mug? "That's my house," I finally said, and my voice didn't sound like mine. "That's my address on my driver's license. I own this property." The sheriff sighed like he'd already had this conversation 3 times today. "I'm not here to decide ownership," he said. "I'm here to enforce the order. If you attempt to enter, I will have to arrest you." I looked down at the orange notice. It had my address printed in bold, a case number, and the phrase "unlawful detainer." Under tenant, it listed my name. Under landlord, it listed my mother's name, Linda Price. My stomach dropped so hard I felt it in my knees. "This is fraud," I whispered. "This has to be fraud." "You can address it in court," the sheriff said, softer now, like he could see I wasn't the kind of person who makes scenes on porches. "Right now you need to leave." I laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "So you're telling me my mother filed eviction paperwork on me?" I said. "And now I'm being told to leave my own house." The sheriff didn't correct me. He just kept that calm, practiced stance. Behind him, my mother turned away from the window like she was done watching. For context, I'm 44. I work as a dispatcher for a medical transport company, which means I spend my days coordinating ambulances and wheelchair vans and trying to sound calm while other people panic. I'm divorced. My son Ethan is 15 and lives with me full-time. I am not dramatic. I am not a screamer. I am the person who apologizes when someone else bumps into me in a grocery store. I bought that little 3-bedroom house after my divorce because I wanted one thing in my life that felt stable. It's not fancy. It's not a dream home. It's just mine. The mortgage is in my name. The deed is in my name. The taxes come to me, and I pay them like clockwork because I'm terrified of anything that looks like instability. My mom has never owned a house. She has always been between places or starting over, or just needing a little help. She also has a gift for making her emergencies feel like the moral responsibility of everyone around her. About 9 months ago, her apartment building had a fire. Not her unit technically, but enough smoke damage that her landlord said she had to move out for repairs. She called me sobbing at midnight, saying she had nowhere to go, that she couldn't stay with my brother because he's too busy, that she couldn't afford a hotel, that she was too old to be treated like this. I told her she could stay with me for a few weeks. Temporary. That word matters. I said it out loud. She said it back. "Just until I get my footing," she promised. First it was fine. She slept in the guest room. She watched TV with Ethan. She cooked dinners and acted like she was doing me a huge favor. Then she started rearranging my kitchen. She moved my spices because they made more sense in her system. She threw away my son's cereal because it's basically sugar. She took down my framed photo of me and Ethan at the beach and replaced it with a giant portrait of herself from the 90s where her hair looks like a helmet. "It brightens the room," she said. I laughed it off. I should have seen it then. My mother doesn't move into a space. She colonizes it. She started inviting people over without asking. Her church friends, her cousin, people I didn't know, sitting in my living room drinking coffee while I came home from 12-hour shifts. "We're having Bible study," she'd say brightly, as if the words automatically made it okay. When I asked her to check with me first, she would get this wounded expression. "I'm not a child," she'd say. "I need community. You don't want me to be lonely, do you?" And because I've been trained my whole life to feel guilty for her emotions, I'd back off. That's how she operates. She pushes until you push back, then she acts like you hit her. My brother Ryan is 39. He's charming when he wants to be and completely unreliable when he doesn't. He's had about 10 fresh starts in the last decade. New jobs, new girlfriends, new plans. My mother treats him like he's a misunderstood prince. I'm the one who should know better. When Mom moved in with me, Ryan visited twice. Both times he complained about my house being small, and Ethan being moody, and my rules being uptight. Then, about 3 months into Mom living with us, Ryan showed up with his girlfriend, Amber, and 2 suitcases. "We're just staying a couple nights," he said, grinning, as if this was a fun surprise. I looked at my mom. She didn't look surprised at all. "It'll be nice," she said quickly. "Family together." I said no. I said it calmly. I said it like an adult. "Ryan, you can't move in here," I told him. "This is a small house and I work nights sometimes and Ethan needs privacy." Ryan's smile dropped. "Move in," he said, offended. "Wow, you really think I want to live in your little house?" Amber laughed awkwardly. My mom stepped in, hand over her chest like she was protecting him from me. "Danielle, don't be cruel," she said. "They just need a few days until their lease starts." I asked what lease. Ryan muttered something about a mix-up. My mother shot him a look that said stop talking. "2 nights," she repeated, like she could negotiate my boundaries down by speaking softly. I said 2 nights. 2 nights turned into 2 weeks. Every time I asked when they were leaving, my mother would sigh and say, "You know how hard it is out there. Rent is insane. They're trying." Then she'd pivot into a lecture about how I think money fixes everything, and how family doesn't abandon each other. Meanwhile, Ryan wasn't trying. He was sleeping until noon, eating my groceries and leaving beer cans in my recycling. Amber stayed glued to her phone, scrolling, making little comments about how my couch smelled like dog, even though I don't have a dog. Ethan started staying in his room. I started picking up extra shifts to avoid coming home. That's the point where my mother's tone changed. She stopped acting like a guest and started acting like a manager. "You're always gone," she'd say. "This house feels tense." "Because you brought tension," I'd say back. "No," she'd correct me calmly. "Because you're angry all the time. The kids feel it." She called Ryan and Amber kids. By the way, even though they're almost 40. One night, after I came home and found Ryan's shoes on my kitchen table, I lost it. Not screaming, not throwing things, just that quiet, shaking anger you get when you realize your life has been hijacked. "Everyone is leaving," I said, standing in my living room while my mother watched TV like this was background noise. "Ryan and Amber need to go. You need to find a place. I'm done." My mother didn't even look up. "You can't kick us out," she said. "Yes, I can," I said. "This is my home." My mother finally turned her head. "Is it?" she asked, and that was the first moment I felt something cold crawl up my spine. "What is that supposed to mean?" I asked. She smiled, small and mean. "Nothing," she said. "You're just stressed. Go to bed." The next morning, my front door key didn't work. I stood there like an idiot at 7 a.m., still in my work hoodie, trying the key again and again. My son's backpack was in my car. My lunch was in my hand. I knocked. No answer. I rang the bell. Nothing. Then my mother's voice came through the door, calm and muffled. "You can't come in," she said. "What?" I snapped, leaning into the door like volume could force reality open. "Mom, open the door." "You need to calm down," she said. "You're scaring people." "People?" I repeated. "Open the door." The chain slid. The door opened 2 inches. My mother's face appeared in the crack, eyes narrowed. "Ryan is sleeping," she whispered dramatically. "Amber is anxious. You're being irrational." I'm late for work, I hissed. I need to get Ethan to school. Ethan can stay home, she said. He's been overwhelmed, and you can take a day. You're always running. I stared at her. Move, I said, and I tried to push the door. My mother yanked it shut and I heard the deadbolt click. That was the day I called a locksmith. When the locksmith arrived, my mother opened the door fully and stepped outside like she owned the porch. This man is trying to break into my home, she told the locksmith, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. The locksmith looked at me. Is your name on the lease? He asked. I own the house, I said, and I pulled up the county website on my phone showing my name on the property records. The locksmith shrugged helplessly. I'm not getting involved, he said. Sort it out legally. Then my mother did something I still can't believe. She called the police. 2 officers arrived and my mother told them I was aggressive, that I was unstable, that I had threatened to throw everyone out in the street. She said she was afraid of me. Afraid. Me. The woman who cries when she sees injured birds. The officers asked if there had been violence. My mother dabbed at her eyes and said, Not yet, but I'm worried. One officer looked at me like I was already guilty. Ma'am, he said, if you share a residence, this is a civil matter. We can't force anyone out without a court order. My mother nodded like that was exactly what she wanted to hear. I understand, she said. I just want things documented. Documented. That word should have been my second warning. The first warning was, is it? When I said it was my home, I left for work that day because I had bills to pay and because I was in shock. Ethan didn't go to school. When I called him, Ryan answered Ethan's phone. He's fine, Ryan said, smug. He just needs a break from your intensity. I drove home early, ready to pack their suitcases myself, and that's when I found the sheriff, the new locks, and the eviction notice taped to my door like I was a stranger. This is a mistake, I told the sheriff, trying to keep my voice from cracking. My mother is not my landlord. There is no lease. There's nothing. Ma'am, there's a filing, he said, and he pointed to the case number. And there's also an order of protection. It states you're not to come within 100 yards of the residence while it's active. 100 yards. I repeated. My car is within 100 yards. I'm advising you to leave the property, he said. You can return with your attorney or for a scheduled civil standby to retrieve belongings if approved. I looked down at the order he showed me. It had my name, my birth date, and a list of allegations that made my stomach twist. Verbal abuse, threats, erratic behavior, financial control, isolation. It read like someone had studied the exact language that triggers concern in a courtroom. And at the bottom, my mother's signature, sworn under penalty of perjury. My mother doesn't know how to use her email without calling me, but she sure knew how to craft a narrative. I got back in my car and my hands were shaking so hard I couldn't get the key into the ignition. I called my brother. Straight to voicemail. I called my mother. No answer. I called my aunt, my mom's sister, Donna, who has always been the quiet witness in our family, the one who says, "That's just Linda." When Linda does something unhinged. Donna picked up and immediately said, "Danielle, what did you do?" That's when I realized my mother had already made calls. She'd already placed herself as the victim. "I did nothing," I said, voice raw. "She locked me out of my own house. She filed an eviction. She has a restraining order. This is insane." Donna went quiet, then said, "Linda told me you were having a breakdown. She said you were yelling and scaring Ethan. She said she had to step in." "Ethan is with her," I said. "She's using my son as a shield." Donna sighed. "Maybe you should just give her what she wants," she said, and I felt something in me harden. "What she wants is my house," I said. "Or control of it. Or money. Or all of it." I drove straight to my workplace parking lot because I didn't know where else to go. And I sat there calling lawyers until someone picked up who didn't sound bored. An attorney named Ms. Patel listened to my story without interrupting and then said, "Danielle, I need you to hear me. Do not violate that protective order. Do not go back to the house. Do not contact your mother directly. Everything from here is documentation and court filings. Also, we need to check something immediately. Has there been any transfer attempt on your deed? What? I asked. Sometimes, she said carefully. People in these situations try to file a quitclaim deed or fraudulent transfer. If she's bold enough to file an eviction on the owner, she may be bold enough to try changing ownership. My throat went dry. How would she do that? I asked. Fraud, she said simply. But fraud can still create a mess you have to unwind. Ms. Patel had me go online to the county recorder while we were on the phone. My hands shook as I typed my address. When the records loaded, I saw my name as owner, thank God, but then I saw something else. A document number filed 2 weeks earlier. Quitclaim deed. I clicked it and my stomach turned. There it was, a scanned deed showing my name as grantor and my mother's name as grantee. It claimed I had transferred my home to her for love and affection. It had a signature that looked like mine if you squinted and didn't care about accuracy. It had a notary stamp, dated when I was working an overnight shift. Oh my God, I whispered. She filed a deed. Miss Patel exhaled. Okay, she said. That's the real game. We will file to contest it, and we'll also file a fraud report with the recorder's office. Do you have any proof you weren't there on the signing date? My time card, I said automatically. Security logs. GPS. Anything. Good, she said. Now the other thing. Where is your son? In that house, I said. With my mother and my brother. We may need to involve family court if she's withholding him, she said. But we do this carefully. Your mother is trying to paint you as unstable. Don't give her a single screenshot of you losing it. I swallowed hard because my entire body wanted to drive back and kick the door in. Instead, I called Ethan's school counselor, told her I needed help, and asked if she could contact Ethan to confirm he was safe. I felt like I was narrating my own kidnapping in polite sentences. That night, I slept in my car. I'm not proud of it, but I couldn't bring myself to call friends and explain that my mother had legally weaponized my own house against me. At 2 a.m., I remembered something and my chest tightened. The living room camera. 2 years ago, after my divorce, my ex had shown up drunk and pounded on my door. I installed a small camera facing the living room for safety. I hadn't checked it in months because life got busy. If my mother didn't know about it, it might have recorded something. The camera account was on my phone. I opened the app with trembling hands. The camera was still online. I tapped events and scrolled back. There were clips. My mother in my living room talking on the phone. Ryan pacing. Amber crying. Then I saw a clip titled Motion Detected, from the exact date on the quitclaim deed. I opened it. The footage showed my mother at my dining table with paper spread out, a pen in her hand, and my brother leaning over her shoulder. You could hear them clearly. Do it slower, Ryan said. Make it look like her. My mother laughed softly. I taught her cursive, she said. I know her loops. Then she started signing my name on a document, practicing, crossing it out, doing it again. My stomach clenched so hard it hurt. Amber's voice floated from the couch. Are you sure this will work? She asked. My mother answered with the calm confidence of someone who's lied her whole life and never been punished. Of course it will, she said. She won't fight me. She never fights me. She just cries and apologizes and tries to be the bigger person. Ryan snorted. She'll fight if she thinks she'll lose the house, he said. My mother's face hardened in a way I'd seen as a child when I disappointed her. Then we make her look crazy, she said. We make sure she can't come back in. How? Amber asked. My mother held up her phone and smiled. Orders exist for a reason, she said. Judges don't like angry women, especially angry single moms. I'll say I'm scared. I'll say the boy is scared. They'll believe me. They always do. I felt like I was going to throw up. It wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. My mother wasn't panicking. She was planning. Then Ryan said the thing that made the whole puzzle click. The realtor says we can list in 2 weeks, he said. If the deed goes through. Realtor. My mother had been in my house for temporary help and was now timing a sale. We need the money, Amber said quietly. Ryan snapped. I know. My mother's voice softened, suddenly maternal, but not toward me. Toward him. It'll be okay, she said. Mom will fix it. That's when I finally understood the center of the story. This wasn't just my mother wanting control. This was my mother rescuing her golden child at my expense. I kept watching. The clip ended, but there were more from the next day. One showed Ryan at the table with a stack of mail. He opened an envelope, swore, and said, "They're suing me." Amber started crying. My mother leaned in and said, "How much?" Ryan mumbled a number that made my throat tighten. Then my mother said, "Then we don't have time for her feelings. We do it now." Now, 2 weeks later, I was locked out and legally painted as dangerous. The next morning, Ms. Patel met me at the courthouse. We filed an emergency motion to dissolve the protective order and a petition challenging the fraudulent deed. She told me to print the camera footage and bring it on a flash drive. She also told me very bluntly that if my mother was willing to commit fraud, she was willing to lie about everything else too, including me as a parent. That was the sentence that finally made me stop thinking like a daughter and start thinking like a defendant. At the first hearing, my mother showed up in a pastel cardigan with tissues in her hand, looking like a fragile grandmother from a cereal commercial. Ryan sat behind her, arms crossed, smug. Amber looked pale. My mother told the judge I had become volatile, that I yelled constantly, that Ethan was emotionally unsafe with me. She cried at exactly the right moments. The judge looked at me with that cautious expression people reserve for women accused of being unstable. Ms. Patel stood up, calm as ice, and said, "Your Honor, we have video evidence of Mrs. Price forging my client's signature on a deed transfer and openly discussing a plan to obtain an order of protection to remove my client from her own home in order to list the property for sale." My mother's face twitched. Just once. Then she tried to look confused. "I don't know what she's talking about," she sniffed. The judge asked for the footage. When the video played in the courtroom, my mother's own voice filled the air, saying, "Judges don't like angry women." And I watched the judge's expression change in real time from skeptical to disturbed. Ryan shifted in his seat. Amber put her hand over her mouth. My mother whispered, That's not what I meant." Miss Patel didn't let her. She played the part where Mom said, "I'll say I'm scared. They'll believe me." She played the part where Ryan said realtor. She played the part where my mother laughed about knowing my loops. The judge stopped the video and stared at my mother for a long, heavy moment. "Mrs. Price," he said, voice flat, "did you file a deed transfer on your daughter's home?" My mother burst into tears again, but this time it sounded different, less controlled. "I was trying to protect my grandson," she sobbed. "She's so stressed, she's always yelling." "We will address custody concerns separately," the judge said sharply. "Right now I'm addressing potential fraud." He looked at Ryan. "And you," he said, "you are listed as a resident in this home. Are you aware of this deed filing?" Ryan opened his mouth, then shut it. For the first time in his life, the charm didn't work. The judge dissolved the protective order that day. He ordered immediate access to the home for me and a sheriff standby to retrieve my son. He also referred the deed matter to the district attorney's office and ordered the county recorder to flag the quitclaim as contested. Walking back to my house with a deputy beside me felt surreal. The locks were still new. My mother opened the door when she saw the deputy and tried to look wounded. Ethan ran to me so hard he almost knocked me over. "I didn't know what was happening," he whispered into my shoulder. "She kept saying you were having a mental break, and you didn't want me." My heart cracked. I held his face in my hands and said, "I will always want you. Always." That was a lie. My mother stood behind him, arms folded. "You're making a scene," she muttered. I looked at her and felt something go quiet inside me. Not hatred, not rage, just a final click. Get out, I said. All of you. Ryan tried to argue. Amber cried. My mother said, after everything I've done for you. I said, you forged my name, lied to a judge, and tried to sell my house. You're lucky. Get out is all I'm saying right now. The deputy watched them pack. My mother moved slowly, dragging it out like she thought I'd soften. I didn't. When she got to the door, she turned and said, you're going to regret this. Family is all you have. I looked at my son behind me, alive, breathing, real, and I said, family is supposed to be safe. She scoffed and left. Here's the part nobody in my family wants to talk about. The reason my mother did it was because Ryan had been gambling. Not a little. Not once in Vegas. He'd been using apps, sports betting, slots, whatever he could tap at 2 a.m. in the dark. He'd taken out loans. He'd borrowed from sketchy people. My mother found out and decided the solution wasn't for Ryan to face consequences. The solution was to sacrifice me. She called it keeping the family together. She called it protecting Ethan. She called it doing what had to be done. In reality, it was the same thing she's done my whole life. She chooses the child who makes her feel important, then punishes the one who expects fairness. The DA's office did contact me. They asked for the footage. They asked for my time cards. They asked for the notary information. The notary, by the way, was a man from my mother's church who had stamped the deed without ever witnessing me sign it. He claimed he trusted Linda. Trust. That word again. My mother tried to call me for weeks after, leaving voicemails that swung from sobbing apologies to furious accusations. How could you do this to me? She'd hiss. How could you embarrass me? Ryan texted once. You didn't have to ruin Mom. I didn't reply. I spent my energy repairing what they broke. I changed every lock. I installed cameras on every angle. I put a credit freeze on my name because if my mother will forge a deed, she'll forge anything. I got Ethan into therapy because he was waking up at night convinced I'd disappear again. I considered selling the house, not because I wanted to, but because walking through rooms where my mother plotted to erase me felt like living inside a crime scene. In the end, I stayed. I repainted the living room. I threw out the mug my mother held like a trophy. I replaced it with a new one that says, in plain letters, "This is our home." It sounds cheesy, but I needed a physical reminder because gaslighting makes your brain feel slippery. My family still tells the story their way. My mother says I turned on her and called her a criminal and chose a man-made system over blood. Ryan says I overreacted and don't understand addiction. Some relatives quietly stopped inviting me to things because my existence makes them uncomfortable. Others have messaged me privately saying, I always wondered why she was so interested in your paperwork, as if that helps now. Ethan doesn't want to see Grandma. I don't force him. That's my boundary. My child is not a prop in someone else's narrative, not even my mother's. I'm writing this because I keep replaying her words in that camera clip, the calm way she said, "Judges don't like angry women," and I realize she's been counting on that my entire life, counting on me being so afraid of looking difficult that I would let her take whatever she wanted. This time I didn't. So I need to know honestly from people who aren't emotionally tangled in my mother's guilt and my brother's excuses. If your own mom forged your signature, used the courts to lock you out of your own home, and tried to sell it to cover your siblings' secret mess, would you do what I did and go to court, show the evidence, and let the legal consequences land where they land, even if it means you lose your mother and half your relatives forever? Or would you keep it in the family, swallow the betrayal, and live in a house you paid for while wondering when the next temporary emergency turns into the next plan to erase you?